recording this so that anyone who misses it can catch it on my YouTube channel later. So now there's no going back when I say or do something stupid. So, anyway. I'm going to... So the big thing here is that I've got these buttons on the left-hand side. And there's kind of a lot of functionality built into these buttons right now. I mean, it's not a ton, but it's very simple functionality that I need to make sure stays clean. Otherwise, this is part of the code that, if I'm not careful, can kind of explode. I don't want it, you know, floating all over the place. And I definitely don't want this to be kind of that spaghetti code I was mentioning a couple streams ago, maybe even last stream. So the idea is that what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take these, and the game has an inbuilt editor. And I'm going to plug these in the same way the engine uses its own buttons, so that we can have a nice clean system. And you can see some of it's already working. When I mouse over, it gives, you know, the little dialogue text and all that good stuff. But we're going to do a little more cleanup so that the code itself stays clean as well, but lets us keep all this functionality and even add some. The functionality I want to add is right now when you click on one of these buttons, it selects the type, but your mouse cursor doesn't change or really show anything to let you know that this is what we're about to do. So right now I'm about to place a building, but it doesn't show anything. And a good rule for game designers is to always do things in such a way that it communicates to the player what they're about to do. So when they make a mistake, they don't feel like, oh, it's the game's fault. No, it was my fault when something went wrong. That's what we want a player to always think. Not that we're trying to pass off bad things to the player, but we're trying to ensure that as little bad stuff happens as possible that a player feels like was not their fault. So, that's kind of what the hope of tonight is, and we'll see how much of that we get done. So, we're going to start in. I've already got a new file created, this GameTools file. And you can see they're both empty. I've got the H and CPP files here. And the idea is that right now, if I actually crack open... right now, everything lives in this input file. So you can already see that the input file is starting to fill up with kind of copy-pastes of code that already exists. We've got event handler functions, and we've got widget observer variables that we don't want just floating around in here. We need to kind of clean this up a little bit so that when you do end up clicking on buttons and doing things, that if I add more buttons, it doesn't end up being more copy-paste. Because this could keep expanding as I add more functionality, and it would just get to a point where it's not maintainable. So, and you can also see here I've got some basic code in here that looks fine, but you can see this function has that same copy-paste look to it, where it's got these pairs of lines that are pretty much exactly the same. And that's not something we really want at all. Same goes with, let's see here. So, also, this one function, if we look at this handle mouse event function, this is a large function. As I scroll down, you can just see that, like, okay, here's that build button, here's the logic for it, and then here's the build farm button, which actually has quite a bit of logic to it. And then we've got the generator build button. Like, all of this logic should not be sitting in here. This needs to get moved outside to somewhere else. So I'm also going to kind of hope to shift that out somewhere else to a class that has a little bit more control over it. Because this is not all stuff that should be getting done here. As nice as it is that it is getting done kind of all in one place, it also is going to get really messy if I keep adding stuff to it, especially if some of this needs really advanced logic. So, without even having touched a line of code so far, hopefully we can kind of see the problem that I have. All this just kind of code is building up in one place, and we just can't. We can't really afford that right now. So, I'm going to start in. The engine has an editor tools file, and I'm just going to make a class for, we're just going to move one thing over at a time. So I'm going to start in on that build first, the actual storage building construction build. So names for things are funny. This will be a tool, so I probably want that on the end of it. Something like storage shed tool. Storage shed build tool. There we go. I like that name a lot better. And we're gonna take the engine. You'll notice, once again, I've got this C4 prefix, which means it's an engine object. And I'm going to pull up what it looks like. So here you can actually see what the insides of this class are going to need. So everything will need an engage and a disengage. Now these, I'm not actually certain what they do. I'm going to have to hunt down in the engine what these do. But here's the big three that I actually like and care about. We have begin tool, which is when you click. We have track tool, which is while the mouse is down and you're dragging it around. And then end tool is when you let go, or you unleft click, I should say, for lack of better words. And they all have, maybe I can't use theirs actually, because it looks like this requires you to have an editor instantiated, and we don't have such a thing. So I might actually have to remake this by hand now that I'm looking at it. Even though it's the right structure that I like, it doesn't have that same set of signatures that I need. This might actually be a little too much. So I'm going to grab a copy of this, and I'm just going to make a generic class that we can build off of for now. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to make our own editor tool class, and I'm actually just going to nuke that, because it's not really necessary. There we go. So I don't know what this select node is either. Excuse me. Oh right, I have water. I came pre-set up this time. So we have to make... Wow, that's really lodged in my throat. It really doesn't want to go. And sorry guys, I don't mean to blow out your ears if I end up coughing towards the microphone. I'm trying not to do that. It's not like I'm sick or anything. It's just, I don't know. I just feel the need to clear my throat right now. My body is telling me I should, and I seem unable to. Alright, so, let's actually look up. So the engine does things for a reason. It's kind of fair enough that I should figure out at least what the engine is using some of these for, and then from there be able to actually figure out what it's using it for. So anything that uses this editor tool subclass, I should be able to hunt it down fairly easily, and then from there we can figure out what the heck it uses it for. So let's look at something simple. Geometries. Yeah, sure. So placing a new geometry uses... Okay, a page is a tool. Fair enough. The big thing I care about is not in here. Okay. So let's change our search. It's really easy to find implementations of things if you put the 2 colons first. And here we go. Okay, so... Okay, so it looks like this is something the editor uses, not something we should particularly be needing, especially when it comes to selecting and deselecting specific control nodes. And I think we're going to be fine if we don't have that. In fact, I'm fairly certain we should be fine without it. So I'm going to actually omit this. And you'll notice that the default constructor is actually protected. So for now, the idea of having this be protected is that you won't be able to instantiate an editor tool subclass on your own, but you will be able to subclass from it in the future in such a way that you can then create tool types out of it. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set these to abstract. And that's what that equals 0 at the end means. Is that this function right here is abstract. So if you say something is both virtual and equals 0, that's how you create an abstract function. And that means that you cannot instantiate this class without, you just can't. That's it. I shouldn't say anything more. You can't. You can instantiate classes that inherit from it, but those classes must also have a function that matches this type. It's like creating an interface in Java, except that you can't store things by editor tool pointers. You still have to store them based on their standard type. We don't really need cookies for now, although we might. I'm not gonna go there for now. And in fact, let's find out what this engage and disengage is for. Oh my. Okay. I understand. So the idea here, when you click on something in the world editor, and I can't bring that up right now. When you click on a button in a world editor, that is what this engage is for. The engage essentially tells you that you're not clicking on the scene, you're clicking on the user interface inside the scene. Handle, yeah, that's what it looks like it's for. Granted, I say this, I'm not the author of this engine. This might not actually be what it was for, but it's what it looks like it is to me. Because if you note, so we have a for loop, and he uses machine. Machine is essentially an integer or a long based on the based on the number of bits in the current system. So you can see right now, well, actually you can't because I still haven't fixed the issue where my IntelliSense doesn't show up on the stream. But this machine is type def to a long right now. In fact, let's bring that up and see if we can find it. Yeah. So you can see, if we're in 64-bit land, then machine is a 64-bit integer. Otherwise, machine is going to be a long, which comes out to 32 or 64 bits, but usually it only does that based on the kind of system you're in. So he's taking something that usually is kind of generic and iffy, and he's breaking it down into something a little more controlled, which is nice. So I'm going to close these down, and we're going to get back to work on the stuff we need. So this would be when the button is clicked and when the button is unclicked. We might actually, let's see, so we have our game world, and you guys can see you guys can see the red squigglies. It's actually unhappy because I haven't included game world in the H file here. Now that we've done that, it'll complain a little less. I do like this music a fair bit more. I was able to hunt down a bunch of game tracks. I think it's right now going through Mass Effect? No, Deus Ex. It's going through Deus Ex background music, and I like it a fair bit more than I was enjoying the just random stuff that Pandora came out before. Hopefully you guys are too. You know, feel free to let me know if this is distracting, if the music is, you know, a bit much, or if this is something we can handle. Wow, there's a lot of editor track data in here. I don't think I'll need something quite that killer. In fact, I don't know. That is really overkill. Here it is. Oof. So this is what the engine passes around every time you click, and it's a little much. I really don't think I need this much stuff. It might be nice to have a track node or a super node, but that's about all. I really am most interested in having a point and a normal, and I might not even need the normal at this point. So, we're actually going to start with the most basic data structure, and we're going to move our way upwards. I'm going to call this the pick point. So this is essentially wherever you click, or wherever the mouse is, when you begin, track, and end. That's what these three functions will do. And we're going to make these definitely abstract. These three are something that is going to be re-implemented by every single tool, because they'll all do their own thing. Yeah. And I like the engage and disengage here, so that we can load and delete models from memory when the UI is clicked, which lets us do neat things like show blueprints. So say I click on that build button, I can have a model loaded and show it wherever the mouse cursor is, so you know vaguely where you're going to put down that building and what it's going to look like when it's done. Instead of, currently, you just kind of get a standard mouse cursor that doesn't show or do anything. And since these don't really need a definition yet, I'm going to just fill them in like that, not do anything. I don't actually even need the constructor and destructor, except that I want this to continue to be protected. Eventually that might change, but for now we're kind of coding by feel, figuring it out as we go. So we've got what an editor tool looks like, and I'm just going to change the name because the engine has something that is also called an editor tool, so I'm going to call it a game tool. Make it a little easier for us to differentiate what is engine and what is ours. So, for example, just going to copy and paste this. And what we're going to do is, actually, we don't want that there. We want a storage shed build tool constructor to exist here. And we'll see what else we need as we go along. So this is where we actually dive into kind of the more meaty stuff. We've got the definition, we've got an idea of what we want to do, and we've got the code already existing for the most part in this giant function, right? So this is that special custom logic we don't want to be in here. So what we are going to do, and in fact here's another thing that I could eventually put in, but we'll get to that later. This all makes sense to you guys? Am I not just spouting gibberish? Hopefully I'm kind of, you know, doing things that make sense. I'll let you guys speak up if I kind of go off track, or if I start saying things that either don't sound like English, or just sound completely counterintuitive in terms of programming. Because it can definitely, the things I do can sometimes be not so straightforward. My programming style is a little bizarre. I like to have good architecture behind my code, and not everyone does that. If you take the time, you can have some very nice architecture in your code. It also takes time and planning though. And so before this stream actually even started, I spent a fair hunk of time trying to figure out just how I wanted this to look. Just so when I hopped in here, I wasn't staring at a screen for a half hour before I even started doing stuff. So in this case, what does this storage shed build tool need to do? So for now, we just need to kind of not do what we are, or I'm sorry, we need to just do what we're currently already doing. So I'm going to hop into this giant fugly file, and we're going to cut that code right out. And I'm just going to dump it in begin tool. So when you click, we're just going to set this this one tool. We're going to run its code, and that's it. We don't care about anything else. And we need to include some extra stuff. Where the heck? Oh, okay, this is going to be from controllers. And I do realize the music right now, it's Deus Ex, Human Revolution music. I think this is just like main menu music right now. Yeah, it is. Okay, cool. I'll actually toss a link of what I'm using. So I found this, and it's got a whole bunch of just game background music that's really cool. And I like it in terms of, it's a very... it's a lot more laid back and chill than the previous stuff I was using. Pandora, stuff with lyrics can be a little overwhelming sometimes. And so this is kind of a nice in-between. So remember, the other thing we're trying to get rid of is all of these. This mess right here. So I'm going to make sure that every game tool also has access. So they also need access to their own widget observer. And they also need access to their own kind of event here that isn't custom. So that means we need this. Do we want this to be virtual or anything special? For now, not really. So we're gonna just make this kind of generic. We're gonna call it a button observer. And that should be fine. And we're just gonna say handle button event. No default constructor exists for class GameTool. So one does exist, but it's it's not available. You know what? We don't actually need that to be protected. We're kind of getting a little overzealous. I have not heard of the move architecture. I'll definitely have to look it up. I'm a big fan of almost over-engineering sometimes my code. And so you'll find that, yeah, things can be a little spread out sometimes, at least when it comes to the stuff I write. But at the same time, hopefully it makes sense and is in the right place. MVC definitely needs a successor, and if move is that architecture, I'll definitely have to check it out. And Madden Guy, yes, the Skyrim soundtrack is friggin' amazing. I'm really hoping it shows up in this. I haven't actually listened to this thing all the way through, but it's got it's an hour long, and then he's got part 2 and part 3. So I'm hoping that Skyrim finds its way in there somehow, because Deus Ex is awesome. And I'm glad that music is in there. Mass Effect, also awesome. And since it's game background music, it does a really good job of existing without being crazy. I should find a better way to say that. It does a good job of breaking the silence without being distracting. So it actually can be a focusing tool to have kind of working in the background. Also that. Okay, this has got to be Mass Effect, yes? Yes. It is now on Mass Effect 2. Fantastic. So it turns out we do need a default constructor for our game tool. Mostly just to set up this button observer. What is this editor tool you're working on? So the editor tool, the stuff I'm working on right now, let's see. I don't think I can. No, I definitely can't. Give me a moment and I'll show off. I'll kind of quickly go over again what I'm working on. But the idea is that right now everything's kind of messy in terms of my user interface code, and I need to clean it up. Otherwise, it's going to continue to get out of hand until it's just completely impossible to maintain. Let's see here. Can I compile it and run it now? Not quite. Oh, because I've not written a GameTool constructor that does little more than takes our button observer. We hand it this pointer, and we also hand it this handle button event function. And this is something that we'll need to change in the very near future. I'm already noticing kind of how this won't work. Oh, come on, Visual Studio, stop reformatting my code. Alright, last thing we need to write before I can kind of get to where I want to be. There we go. Alright, so quickly show off once again what I'm working on. Right now, I've got these buttons on the left-hand side, and right now, all of their code exists in one place, which means I have one giant monolithic file, and that in order to add features to it, that monolithic file would get even larger. And so I'm trying to avoid that by moving these out into their own structure. So right now, there's one function that controls all of this functionality, and that's not good. You want to space things out, not just in code-wise, but you also want them spaced out in a meaningful way. And I'm just going to have fun, put a few things down. Whoops, a little too far apart. There we go. So the idea is right now, the code I just used to put down this power source and these poles is all in one place. And that code right now is sitting inside of this giant function. So you can see all of this handle mouse event. So every time you click, it goes through the entirety of this code. And as I continue to scroll down, you can kind of see there's a lot of it. In fact, far too much. And it only does one thing right now. Handle mouse event technically does a bunch of different things, but I'm only handling mouse down events, or when you click a mouse button. And I need to break that out so that we can not only handle mouse down events, but also things like mouse track events. So when I'm going to reload the world just to show, whoops, wrong thing. Ignore the FPS timer for the moment. So when I click on one of these buttons, say this farm one, right now nothing shows up. I need something like a blueprint to show up on the ground so that I can kind of see, just even a ghost of an image would be enough to show off exactly where this farm is going to be. So I know whether it's going to fit here and exactly what it will look like when I click. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So back to work for a little. So there's one issue already, and that issue is that this hunk of code is not going to work when I start pushing that code into the inherited classes. So right now, storage shed build tool is a kind of GameTool. But right now, I'm handing it GameTool's static handle button event. So the problem is that it's always going to go for this function pointer. Even when I inherit off of it and do stuff like this, it's always going to have this this same function pointer getting used every single time, and that's not what we want. So we need to figure a way, first off, to move this into something a little more generic, kind of like what I did before when I was working with the AI logic. Way back in here somewhere. Here, this transporter logic, you can see I'm using templated classes to try and get some of this stuff under control in terms of, here's that static cast that I was doing earlier. And that's the kind of thing that we want to do here again. So a static class, or not static, sorry, a template class is exactly what we want for this solution. So GameTool is suddenly going to get a little bit more complicated, but it'll also make this a little bit more, the term programmers use is extensible. It makes it it makes it more flexible, better able to take on all of the changes and forms that we want. So I'm actually going to glance back at that AI file very quickly just to kind of see what I was doing. And I think I have a fair grasp of what was going on here. I hope I do, otherwise there's going to be some trouble in a little bit. I see. Okay, So, what I was doing there, and what I'm going to do here, first off, these cannot be here, because this is now a template class, and remember, we have to have that template class. All template code needs to exist in a header file. So, Mao Hearthstone, I want to say Mao, M-O-U, is the thing I'm worried about mispronouncing, but I'll just say Mao Hearthstone for now, asks, would it not be good to have all the code coming from one place? Having less calls would be more efficient, wouldn't it? Yes, so more function calls does tend to mean a less efficient code base, because function calls take a little bit of time. But if you can't maintain it, you're kind of trading off game optimization for your ability to add new features to the game. Also, if everything's coming from one place, it gets very difficult to navigate the code that you're writing and working with. So for example, if I were to keep adding new features, this one function here would begin to take over this entire file, as it already actually has. And you can see all the code that lives inside here does not need to be in this one place. In fact, all these if statements can get cut out by a very simple virtual function pointer. And those are going to be faster in the long run than a ton of if statements or even a switch statement. We're going to actually end up optimizing, kind of accidentally, by making this change, by cleaning up the code this way, which is nice. It actually gives us a little boost, where in some cases spreading your code out can actually reduce your performance. Still, it's better to have cleaner code than it is to have fast code in most cases. Pretty much every person I've talked to, and it's been true for my programming career, says that you don't want to optimize prematurely, because it makes your code difficult to deal with, and the first thing you want to be able to do is finish your product, then clean it up so that it works fast. But you can always do that cleanup later. The hard part's getting the job done in the first place. So that's kind of why, part of why, one of the many reasons why, I should say, I'm doing this work right now. Not only does it need to be done, but I want to add features, and the more I put this off, the more work it's going to become later down the line. Like this track and end tool function couldn't exist as the code currently is. Or they could, but they'd just be bleh. We just don't want that. It's kind of in a bad place as it is, and I've kind of been letting my my laziness get the better of me. So we're fixing it. We are undoing the lazy that I have begun with. All right. So we have this widget observer, and we have this handle button event, and we're going to make this abstract as well, so that we know that every one of these classes has to inherit it. There we go. Much better. And the other thing is that we need to write this. We need to write this constructor now. And that is a really good question about Hearthstone. Some people would wonder why the heck I'm doing this. And it definitely is a good question to ask why if something doesn't make sense. If I'm doing something that seems backwards or very unintuitive, it's better that you ask and I at least try and understand, try and help you understand, than it is to sit here kind of lost and just kind of close the stream thinking that I'm some kind of nut job who doesn't understand what I'm doing. Alright, so we're going to pass this pointer, and this is where the magic of that template class comes in. The whole reason we're doing this in a template is because we want a function. Thank you, Visual Studio, for not fixing my white space. The whole reason we're doing this template class is right here. So we need to pass a static function pointer. Ooh, that's the other thing we have to do. You're not just virtual, you're static. In fact, it's actually to the point where I'm tempted to not even put this in here. Other than, you know what? I'm going to fill it completely out, but I'm going to comment that line out. And the reason I'm doing this is so that documentation-wise, I know this needs to exist. And it will complain in the compiler if that function doesn't exist when I try and implement this. So that's good. And the whole reason we're doing this is because we're passing a static function pointer to this button observer. I'm just going to bounce back to this H file very quickly. Make sure I'm doing this right. So this needs to have the T there. Handle button event is an undeclared identifier. Maybe I can't have this as commented out as I would like. Ah, I see the problem. It's not that handle button event here is problematic. It's that I don't have a function by the same name. And see, I said it would complain. The compiler would complain if that function doesn't exist in the inherited class's structure. And here it is, complaining. Which is good. Mo Hearthstone. Got it. Cool. Hey, I like to try and pronounce names correctly, especially for folks who stick around. You know, it's helpful to not have to fight with it every single time, as I have been doing with a lot of people's names. So it's nice to know, even if, you know, it's not something some streamers may think a ton of. It's kind of a community thing for me. I like being able to get names right and at least make you guys feel like I'm making an effort to try and get this stuff done. So, handle button event. Good. So I'm trying to think of a good way to do this. So every widget is going to have an associated tool. That kind of makes sense. And I'm guessing that by the time I'm done here, in fact, I'm just going to include it right now. I'm going to include my game tools in here. And we are going to add, I'm thinking a list, maybe an array. We'll go with array for now. We'll make it list if it's a little more in need of work. Game tool pointers. Ooh, but this has to be specialized at this point, so I can't just use game tool pointers. So this is where some of that planning I did beforehand would come in handy, had I thought of this before. Because otherwise, right now, this is just going to now fill up with game tools. I'm just going to be like, alright, here's the shed tool. And then I'll need another game tool that's the, you know, the farm tool. And you can kind of see how that's going to continue to explode outwards as well. Not something we want to do. We want to try and keep this under control so that when we add new things, it's not a big hassle to get it done. So the question is, how are we going to do this? And a good question that currently is. So we need something we can call from this handle mouse event. And if every time I generate a new button, are we always calling the same thing? That doesn't seem right. So we have a handle, okay, I see. We have a handle shed button event. So when you click the shed button, it's just going to do the simple job of saying, we are essentially setting that button to on and setting the selection mode. The upside is I can probably clean this up now, but I'm not going to get to that quite yet. How do we do this? I kind of wish I could just have an array of game tool pointers, right? This would be the ideal. And I just have my tool array here, and we would fill in the tool array with tools that, you know, go to our heart's delight. We just kind of fill it in with everything we ever need. and that would be great. Obviously, you can see from these 74 compiler errors and 8 warnings, that's not quite gonna float. In fact, it's really complaining about this, isn't it? Let's remove that for a moment. What the heck is going on here? Ah, it looks like we have a circular dependency. Ooh, that's not good. That's not good at all. And I see why. Okay, so GameTools includes GameWorld. GameWorld includes this input file, and this input file includes GameTools. See the circle? We need to break that. Because as long as this continues to contain that loop, we're not going to compile happily. So I think we're going to have to remove the game world out of GameTools. Lucky for us, we can still pass in generic world pointers. And all we need to do is have the world pointer just get casted to whatever we need it to be when the time comes. In fact, I'm kind of tempted to remove this even. Although, one thing at a time. We'll kind of see how this goes and work our way through it. Mo also asks, can't you just make a single function for building, and from there, select the one you want? Or do you need to have one for each? So the way the engine is built, unfortunately keeps me from doing something like that, but it also fortunately keeps me from doing something like that. So each widget observer here is, it's part of the observer pattern, which essentially means that it is made to keep an eye out for one event to happen. And that single event, in this case, is the matching function that I pass alongside it. So for us here, it's this handle shed button event. So when you click on the shed button, it calls this function. And that's nice because it keeps all your functionality and all the custom code in one place. So if we did call a single function for building, we would have to make a whole bunch of if statements inside of that for each different kind of building, and then for each different building we'd have to have custom code. In our case here, it's much easier to break it up and put it all into their own functions. So, let's see here. We've got the game world, we've got the pick point, we've got the stuff we care about kind of marshaled away. Woo! And what is it complaining about now? Oh, it does not understand what a world is. But that's easy. We just include C4 world at the top of the file. And see, that breaks up our loop, oddly enough. Now it's still complaining a lot, more than I would expect it to. Oh, because it also doesn't know what a widget observer is. So we need to add that. Okay, 3 errors. I like that much more than 74. Much, much better indeed. Alright. Tools. This is all set. It looks good. We can actually remove the virtual keyword from these because the base class is already marked as virtual. We don't need every single function that it inherits from to also be virtual. So now we just need to define these 3, which we've mostly done out here. I just need to change the signatures to match. And in this case, we just need to do the static cast that we've been doing everywhere else. Mo, I'm not, not everything is all mine here. So the engine I'm using is a, kind of pre-generated, not pre-generated, it is a written engine by Terrathon Software that I happen to have a license for. And that kind of makes life a little easier. I don't have to fight with building my own 3D engine and getting all the code to work. It's just kind of there, which makes my life a whole lot easier, especially when it comes to basic tasks like getting input. Stuff like that I don't have to worry about suddenly. So the other thing it's complaining about is it can't access this because it's private. So remember, private means that only the inherited class has access to it. If we want to make sure our base class has access to it, we have to make it protected. So our three classes, we have three. Haha! We have public, which means anything can access it. We have private, which means only I can access it, only I and my kin. So storage shed build tool and other storage shed build tools. And then the final is protected, where I and people who inherit from me and things that I inherit from. Although, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm mistaken. Let me revise that very quickly. Protected, I was incorrect on. Try this again. Protected is the ones who can access it are only ones who inherit from me, not the other way around. So this actually needs to get moved out to the public space. Otherwise, our GameTool class can't access it, and that's no good. One step closer. Okay, one thing left to do. And that one thing left is that we can't simply use a this pointer here, as nice as it would be. We have to static cast it to a T pointer, where T is our template class that's coming in, and we just cast it to the type. No appropriate default constructor available. So now's the point where the compiler's getting a little picky with me. I might not be able to do this as cleverly as I like, unfortunately. Let's see here. This is a widget observer. I'm close, but it's still, it's still complaining because I didn't put a semicolon at the end of the line, and there's still some more complaints. Okay. So it does want this widget observer to get initialized. Unfortunately, it wants it to be done as part of the class initialization, which is a little frightening. Let's see if we can do this. I didn't think you could static cast things inside of a constructor like that. And it doesn't look like I can. Cannot convert argument 2 from a void pointer with the following. Interesting. Interesting indeed. Oh, it looks like I'm putting static on things that don't need to be static. I don't want this here, nor do I actually want this here. And there we go. It looks like it's compiling now. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So anyway, to answer the question I started to answer like 5 minutes ago, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to Mo Hearthstone for a second. I'm not making the game code, or I am making the game code, I'm not making the game engine code. And that's a really big distinction. I'm essentially making the parts of the game that include the gameplay. I'm not making what makes it tick. Hopefully that's kind of the clearest way I can put that. Alright, so let's get this finished up so I can kind of show off what I mean when I say I want all this stuff to happen. Handle button event. Interesting. So I think I'm going to try and be even more clever than I currently am. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm kind of looking at my code and trying to figure out how this might or might not work. But I'm going to try and remove this template here. If I could put this into a non-template class, I would be so happy. And we're going to try it. No promises on whether this works or not. But we're going to give it a shot. Because if I can remove this, and you can see it gets a little dicey in some spots. Let's see here. If I can remove this template class here, and take all these details out, all this messy stuff that I'm currently doing, I need to also remove that, because it's not a template anymore. Does that still build? It looks like it still builds. I'd be really happy if it still builds. Oh, okay. GameTool wants its constructor back in the CPP file, and that's fine. That's kosher. We need to, of course, fix its white space, because Visual Studio is... it's really nitpicky about that kind of stuff. There we go. But that's what we're hunting for right there. A nice, clean compile, where now I can actually do this. Right? Please? Yes? Alright. Looks like it worked. So, now we can have just an array of tool pointers sitting around, and what we can do is all of these game tools now get their own... We actually don't need this handle button event anymore. So let's get rid of this. Alright, so this is much better. I like this so much more already. So what this does is this essentially gives us a better eye into how this whole thing should work. So, whenever you click on this begin tool, only this one tool is going to be what's running and chosen. Which means that if something, say, breaks whenever I try and build a storage shed, I know the bug must be somewhere in here. Very, very good distinction to have. Mo Hearthstone asks, do you lose game performance by using external engines or frameworks, or is it just about the code you write yourself? So it really depends. You do lose the tiniest bit of performance, and almost what I would call a negligible amount of performance when you use an external engine. Because right now the external engine is a DLL. So Windows has a lot of DLLs flying around, so does this game. Whenever you call a function that is inside a DLL, the compiler can't really do a lot of optimization with the link between your game and the DLL. Now the DLL itself can be optimized, and your game can be optimized, but the link between the two can't. And so, the best thing you can really do is, in this case, is not worry about that, because that is a pretty negligible performance loss. And honestly, we're not too worried about game performance. I mean, as you may have seen earlier, I think I'm still getting about 160 frames per second. Granted, that's, you know, kind of close to 60, but not really. If we look at how much time we're spending per frame, unoptimized. Keep this in mind, this is unoptimized. I'm running a debug build, and debug builds are always a lot, or at least a fair bit slower than an optimized build. I'm currently spending about 6 milliseconds per frame, and most of that is actually coming in through the shadow map rendering. So I could actually clean up the shadow map a little bit, or make it a lower resolution, and this would run nice and fast again. And it's not going slow right now. It's just going slower than it was initially. So I've still got more than half of my frame time, because if I want to run at 60 frames per second, that's about 16 milliseconds per frame, right? Let's double check that. Yeah, 16 milliseconds per frame. So, and those spikes you saw were just because I was making the game lose focus, and whenever it loses focus, it drops its frame rate so it doesn't eat your entire computer, even when you're not playing the game. Not something I'm even slightly worried about right now. So, at worst, I'm spending about half my frame time right now. I got a lot of time left. I'm not even worried about performance in the slightest. I see you're drinking. I will take a sip. For those at home, this is framboise. It is a, I want to say raspberry, and I think I'm right. It's a raspberry liqueur. Stuff is really sweet. It's really good. As the girlfriend is bringing the bottle into frame. Take this away before I drink it all. Thank you. Good stuff. Good wine. Granted, when you're programming drinking a lot, it doesn't help, but I have a fairly structured task in front of me, so it shouldn't be too hard for me to have a little drink and continue working. Maybe one of these days I'll do a drunk stream, or I'll just like, let's add a feature, and I'll just be drinking way too much the entire time. That probably would not end well, or at least my poor code would not be happy with me doing that. Alright. No, I am definitely no programmer. My idea of fun is not drinking a pair of 40s and programming. Sadly, I know those kinds of people. I say sadly. I think it's sad. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. If you can drink and program, props to you. Because holy heck. Alright, so we have got our input, and we're just going to add in, since we've already got in our input class this array of game tools, we're just going to add in the first tool. So I'm going to go up here to the top, and here's my constructor. We're just going to jump in and say tool array. We want a new, oh, what did I name it? It was a storage shed build tool. Cool. And that adds our element to the array. Nice. Alright, so now I need to make sure that when you click on the button that we're setting the observers correctly for this whole thing. Which is what this widget observer here is hoping to remove. So this wants to get deleted, as does this. Because we want all of this code to get removed and replaced by a set of tools that do a very specific task. So we're going to remove that. So how do we initialize this correctly? Because this is something that is actually going to take a little bit of thought. We need to make sure that when we pass in... there we go. So we need to pass something into this. Otherwise this isn't going to work. So I'm going to move this out here. And I'm going to pass it the icon that we would normally find. So let's undo all this so I can still find... There we go, that's what I need. I need that line to exist for a moment longer so that I can pass it... let's just pass it the type, actually. Or not the type, the key. That's the right term. We're going to pass it the key and see if it likes it. Because that might honestly be the way to go. So we're going to pass it the name of the widget. Ooh, we also need to pass it the window that we're hunting inside. There we go. Is that all the information? I think that's all the information. So first we're going to put this into this constructor. So we need a window pointer. And we also need, I'll just use a character pointer for now. We need a character pointer of the widget key that we're going to be hunting for. Yes. And I'm deleting kind of all the old stuff that used to go with the old system so that we don't have compiler errors when we're trying to build the new stuff. And I'm also kind of trying to keep this clean as I go about it, although things will get messier before they get cleaner. It's kind of how it works. You just kind of end up making more of a mess before you clean it up. It's like when your room has all the crud on the floor and you end up like, oh, well, it's in a pile on the floor, so it's out of the way. But you honestly need to go through and kind of clean up you take everything off the floor out of the pile, you then sort it, put it all away, and then it's cleaner. You make more of the mess first, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at here. Lots of good questions here, though. From Mo Hearthstone. Oh, I thought he was asking another one. Don't worry about asking questions, guys. I am happy to answer questions. It's actually helpful sometimes to get a little break from what I'm working on. And it breaks the monotony of this whole thing. Programming can be monotonous. God forbid, right? It can be. It's not the end of the world, but it can be. And so it's nice to have your questions to kind of break it up, and also it sheds some light for me on the kind of stuff that might seem confusing to other users as well. It's kind of that thing they tell you in class where it's like, well, if you don't ask the question, someone else might also need that answer but be too afraid to ask. It's nice to have people who ask those questions. These are not, bad questions. These are great questions. Just keep in mind, when you ask about performance stuff, I don't care much for performance right now. We're just trying to get the game done. We'll see what the frame rate looks like, and if it's below what we want it to be, or if it doesn't work on a machine that we want it to work on, then we'll go back and do all of our optimization and cleanup. But first things first, we got to make a game. And that is kind of what I'm trying to get done. Although I seem to be having some IntelliSense issues. Thank you, Microsoft. You make a wonderful tool 90% of the time. People have told me to try the Community Edition. I honestly should. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Oh, button. That's why. It's not IntelliSense that's wrong, it's me. That happens more often than I will want to ever admit. But that's fine. Okay, so this is what we want to happen whenever you click the button. Yeah! This button observer, which is in this handle button event. So let's move this out here. I'm just gonna... Oop. We want that there. We want that put back for now. Here we are. You. This thing. So every game tools kind of act the same way whenever you click the button, which is good. We all want to do a couple things every single time. So we need to, we need some way to get this selection mode. Oh wait, no we don't. Haha, let's rip that out. We don't care about that anymore. In fact, I've already got a copy of the code. So I don't even need to care. Don't even need to care. So I'm just gonna do this. Let's see. If it equals 0, we're going to set it to 1. Otherwise, we're going to set it to 0. Yeah. Inline conditional statements are a little crazy, but you'll learn very quickly that they're a great tool to have. So we're saying if the button widget's current value is 0, and we're asking it like a question, so this is where that inline conditional is. If it is equal to 0, then we're going to do the first statement, which is just set the value to 1. Otherwise, set it to 0. So we're just reversing the statement. If it is 0, set it to 1. If it is 1, set it to 0. Alright, sorry. Catching up on chat sometimes, and so it means I just kind of like stare blankly into space. I swear, I'm still here, guys. I just, I have things vying for my attention. Also, the music stopped. That is also vying for my attention. I'm gonna jump to part 2. Alright. More music. Sounds good. Half-Life 2 music? I am down. Alright. So, every time this widget changes, we just set it right back. Sounds good. The only thing I'm trying to think on is if we need a finer grained control here, but I think we should be fine. Should be good. In fact, so this is where this engage and disengage function can kick in. So, what we can do is we can call this, and then we say if the button widget's new value is 0, so if we just turned it off, oh, sorry guys, don't mean to have the volume too high. Let's double check the volume levels before I continue, just so you guys can hear. I promise I don't just talk for my own. YouTube, why are you so loud? There we go. Hopefully that is better. The volume levels at least look better. Let me know if you can, if the music's too loud or too soft. I'm just going to keep kind of charging on in the meantime. Okay, so if the button has been unpressed, so if you click on it and decide to cancel, then we are going to call disengage. And I'm going to remove that world pointer here. We don't actually need this. At least not yet. Not now. We might later. We'll figure it out if we do. And because I like to have my positives before my negatives, I'm going to say if it equals 1, we call that engage function first. Otherwise, and this is just because this is a personal preference. I honestly don't care that much, but it's nice. It's always nice. So what this is going to do is because it's a virtual function I'm calling, in most cases it's just going to call this, which as you can see is an empty function that won't do anything. But if I were to say override it, like I am right here, it's going to call these functions instead. Now granted, these are still empty. Not the point. We can do custom stuff when you click that button. And that's why we want this. For now, we don't need the custom stuff, so I'm actually going to comment it out. We'll delete it if it turns out we really don't need it at all, but for now we can leave it. So when you begin the tool, that's when you click, we're putting the new model in. Great. And it is going to complain, it is going to complain that it already has a body. Yeah, no it doesn't. That's just me forgetting to delete things that I should have deleted a while ago. And it says this function doesn't need to exist anymore. Compiler, you are completely correct. Let me comment that out for now. We'll delete it later when we're done, just so we don't lose code in the interim. I know it still exists in our code repository, but it's a pain to look that stuff up. So let's just kind of get things done and put them where we need them. Alright, so this is all finished. and filled out. So we got to do one more thing, and that is we have to hook up all the details inside this function. And actually, this is what we're going to do. First off, we're going to test this, just to make sure it works. And I just kind of realized that there's a better way and place to put this. Because this is common code that's going to exist alongside every single tool you create. So I'm actually just going to go so far as to put this up here, and then call that base class, and fill it in with all the goodies that we get. A little more cleanliness, just so we're not copying and pasting as much stuff. Chemox Warrior asks, what development software do you use? For the most part, as you can see, it's just straight up Visual Studio Express. This is the free version you can get anywhere. I use the Windows desktop version because it doesn't have a bunch of web stuff tacked in that I will never use. I'm not a web developer, it's just kind of not my thing. So the desktop version has kind of what I need. Aside from that, I use Blender for my 3D models, and I'd say I use audio software, but there's no audio in the game yet. That'll change, but not right now. Alright, build tool, begin, okay. Last actual step. We need to ensure that every button that is pressed gets our input. So, let's see here. We need to put this begin tool function somewhere where we can make use of it. Also, we want to do so outside of, or we want to do so in such a place where we know if we've got a collision with the world. Because if you click and you click somewhere on the interface, we want to make sure that the interface and the tool don't both register. We want to register every click once. So, when you handle a mouse event, okay, we are going to detect if you've hit anything, and if you haven't hit anything, now we need to trigger that tool that we were working on. And I'm just going to call a function that's like handle, let's see. Maybe we'll just call begin tool, or begin selected tool? I like that. I like the sound of that. Begin selected tool. Yeah, let's do that. I like the name of that function. And I'm going to move it after the point at which we do our collision check. So here we get the world ray, and we're figuring out what you're pointing at with the mouse pointer. Excuse me. And here's where we do the actual collision detection. So this is where we want our tool to be. And we are simply going to pass it. Let's see here. We need to pass it the world. And we also need to pass it the point of collision. I don't know if we need to pass it anything else. Is that it? That is it. Fantastic. And we need to pass it a pointer here. Do we? Really? A pointer? Let's just do a reference. References are so much nicer. They're cleaner. Less dereferencing. See what I did there? Ah, puns. Sorry. I'll feel bad about that pun later. Maybe. Not really. Alright, so now we have to write this function. Begin... Where is it? Begin selected tool. And we also need, oh, right. We need the point. So there's our declaration. Now we need our definition. Remember, every function comes in two parts. You have to declare it somewhere and then define it somewhere. Sometimes you can do both at the same time, but if you want it visible to external things, you need to do the declaration in the header at least, and the definition somewhere in an executable CPP file that gets compiled. Alright, so, and definitely, yeah, as for the sadistic mentions, references are cleaner in a lot of cases, especially when you can do stuff like pass them by constant references, so you know that they're not going to get modified somewhere along the way. It's less referencing and dereferencing, and that's that kind of goes back to what Mo Hearthstone was saying earlier about performance. We're doing little things along the way to keep it clean, so we don't have to go back and do a big maintenance later on all this. And at the same time, when you pass pointers around, there's a chance something can go wrong. And here, by passing a reference, we're essentially ensuring that nobody tries to dereference this in a bad way, or modify the memory in a way that we don't want. We're essentially signaling intent. So we are going to give you a .3d, and I don't want you to touch the contents of it. It is a read-only variable. So we're going to essentially let the compiler slap anyone across the wrist who tries to change the contents of it. I'll just keep using int for now. So I is less than the tool array dot element count. Alright, and we're going to go through each tool in the array, and we are going to say begin tool. But we need to make sure that it's the selected tool. That's the big thing here. And how do we ensure that? That is a good thought. So we don't want to just call begin tool on every single tool that we've created. We want a better way to do this than just trying to turn them all on and just saying, if you're not on, you'll figure it out yourself. Oh, and I see I need to redefine. Right now it's trying to use pointers. Yeah, it's trying to use pointers, and I'm still passing things by reference. So let's fix that very quickly while I ponder how the heck to fix this problem that I seem to have run into by not planning ahead far enough. Or at least just by kind of programming by ear, as I have been doing. Oh. And you still want... There we go. You still want pointers. That is incorrect. You want references now. I promise they are much better. Especially when you're passing things like structures. Like this .3d is a pretty simple class. It's an x, a y, and a z. Right? That's fairly small. You don't need to pass a pointer around for something that's small, especially, you know, little things. For those, passing by reference is a great idea. So, illegal indirection. We've got, that is fine. Alright, see, and you notice how it tried to slap us across the wrist the moment we tried to dereference this pointer. Or this reference now. It was a pointer before, it's a reference now, and the moment I tried to compile like this, it went, no. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Great, that's good. That would have turned into a bug I would have really had to hunt down had I been doing this incorrectly. So we just saved ourselves a hunk of hassle just simply by doing that one thing. Okay, so we're gonna... I'm trying to think of a good way to essentially say, are you selected? And I think I'm going to add a variable to the GameTool that simply says, no, you are not selected to start with. when somebody clicks on your button, we are going to invert this Boolean. And remember, we can invert Booleans with the what people will call the bang very often, with an exclamation mark. This allows you to invert Booleans. So you say if instead of saying if selected is true, you can say, well, if selected is not true, or you can say if not selected is false. Or you can get even crazier. Don't actually do this. This is a terrible idea now. If not selected is not equal to true, it's almost as bad as English grammar. And we're not going there. At least programming languages have real syntax. So, if selected, we're going to change this to also depend on this selected. And we're going to quickly add a little public variable just called isSelected. There we go. This is what we want. So we say if, if the tool that is currently being examined is selected, then we call begin. Simple as that. Just iterates through and says, are you selected? Yes? Okay, cool. Here is the world and the point at which you've been clicked. Simple. Easy. All we need. And now, starting from here, this code, and I'm going to keep scrolling, because remember, this thing's got way too much in it. From here to here, all that code can be deleted, eventually. We'll get to that point. And that will be a fun point, because that's a shit ton of code that honestly needs to be cleaned up. Whew. That is a lot, indeed. Hopefully this all makes sense. Guys, let me know if I'm going too fast, saying things that don't make sense, or if you feel like I can clarify something, then please let me know. Housemates are crazy. They're cray-cray. And they were playing Fantasy Life right behind me, which is really mean because I really want to play Fantasy Life on my 3DS. Now they turned up the music, which you guys might be able to hear. Yeah, for the sadistic, stop that. Really, just please never type that again. That's, Oh god, it's a terrible, terrible statement.
No, what is it?
No,
Is it really funny?
It's essentially an if statement where every single thing is knotted, or, like, it's a bunch of booleans that, that hurts my head. Let's not. And that's almost correct. Your syntax is a little bit off, but you get the point. So keep in mind that when you use something like, oh god, no, you would lose your job in a heartbeat. I am so sorry. But when you're doing stuff like this, remember that the if statement here is going to create a branch in your code. And so what you're going to want to do is you don't want to have executable code inside of a single line conditional statement. For example, let's just take this. I'm actually going to copy and paste it, as painful as it is. Okay. Okay. What we want to do is this if statement is fine on its own. So you can do whatever the heck you want inside there. But if we want to set variable as a if we want to set var as a variable, we would say var equals, and then we would take the contents of this if statement, and just for why not, I'm going to put that in brackets. Let's see here. There we go. Question mark, that, done. And I'm going to delete the what, because that's obviously not part of the code. That is what your final line would look like. So var is going to hold depending on what this monstrous ugly thing that needs to be destroyed, depending on what this evaluates to. If it evaluates to true, oops, then we need to do that. Sorry, I need to do a little more cleanup on this line. There we go. So if this evaluates to true, we are going to store var2, or sorry, not var2, inside var. Otherwise, we're going to store not var3. Hopefully that makes sense. This is the full statement in it looks correct. It's honestly difficult for me to parse with so many bangs in there. That makes my head hurt. I'm sorry, it's going away now. But hopefully, you just learned something. Yes, no problem. Alright, back to work in code that does not make my mind spin. Okay. Woo, there's a little too much in here that is getting commented out. So we begin the selected tool. Can I crunch this all down? Yeah, I can. That's the one nice thing about Visual Studio. If you do block comments, it lets you just close it. So note how much smaller this function is. It now fits on my screen and does so by a lot. So it's much better. And I should be able, being the key part of that sentence, be able to run this code, and at this point be able to see some of the fruits of my labor. By clicking on this button, see? Alright, so without realizing it, I put a breakpoint inside here. So this looks fine. And we're going to call engage, which, remember, it's going to call this meaningless empty engage function. Not the end of the world. And we're back in engine code where we don't want to be. So, you see, the button is now clicked and unclicked. We've just implemented something that already existed. Now we're going to try the hard part. If we put it down, hey, there it goes. It works. And you can see, here goes the guy. It's doing all its work. It's registering the job of construction. It's doing everything. So that giant, ugly thing is now gone. Ta-da! Mohearthstone asks, do the trees... are the trees objects in your game, or are they just cosmetic? Right now they're cosmetic. With a little bit of work, especially now that I've got them broken up into cells like this, so a cell is one of these like terrain outcroppings. Now that I've got trees in cells, I can actually register a wood chopping job, which I would have to finish writing because it was in an old code style. And I could have, eventually, trees be something that they can chop down and bring back. That's later. Let's finish up what we started with. And I might call it a night because it's getting hungry. It's getting hungry. I'm getting hungry. The code does not get hungry. Or if it does, I should start running now. Let's see here. So this begin tool, I've still got some stuff left behind from the old way I was thinking I would do stuff. So I'm actually going to remove this boolean. We don't need to be returning true. There's nothing really to show off here. Oh god, if you ever see code like that, please call me out on it, Volatile, or For the Sadistic, or anyone else in chat. If I ever write something as indecipherable and ugly as that, I honestly should probably go see, I don't know, like a psychiatrist or something immediately, because that, no. I do not write code like that. Or at least I really hope I don't. But it was a good example, and a good way to kind of show what you can do with that kind of stuff. One-line conditionals are really cool, really powerful if done correctly. So, we've got our storage tool is now converted over to the new stuff. And for now, I'm actually going to remove the stuff that we're not even using. So all this code can bugger off. Let's see. Moherstone asks, do the trees need to be updated once they're rendered into the game? So they do currently have a controller attached. Let's see here. Yeah, there is a tree controller somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. So the controller exists, and it uses the physics system and some other subclasses that I've created. So they are already getting updated. But I need to go in and fix the AI so that they know what a cluster of trees is. So that they don't just go clear-cut the entire world once they decide to chop down a single tree. It would be hilarious if they clear-cut the entire world, but that's not the point. You want them to stop eventually. Alright, so let's finish this up. Let's make all our other little build tools that we want. And then I'm probably going to go eat and call it a night. And next time I stream, after I get all this stuff done, so I'm just kind of letting you guys know what's kind of on the menu. Next time I stream, I will then add functionality. So I've done the cleanup. Great. After the cleanup's done, I'm going to add in more cool stuff. Like when you select a tool, showing a blueprint of where something is going to be placed when you click, that's really high on the list. That is something I would like to do. Other things include, I'm trying to think, so variable size farms might show up, so you can have a nice big farm, or you can plant a bunch of tiny ones if you don't have a lot of open land space to work with. Trying to think of other things to add in once this is done. The blueprints were really the big thing that I wanted done. So I just realized one little final cleanup thing I can do that will make this even better is I can remove this shed button. I have to remember its name, otherwise I'm going to be in big trouble. That's not something that should be defined out in the input world. This is something that should be defined on a per tool basis. So we don't want that there. I don't want that there. I do want this to read shed button. There we go. And now we're passing less stuff around. So let's see here. So this needs to read farm button. And we really don't want this widget key character pointer there anymore. So you can go away. This is cleaning up very nicely. This is actually a lot better than the work I was doing initially to try and get this all done. Alright, so we're going to break this thing back open for a moment and find, oh boy, where is it? This hunk of code here. Cut. And we're going to paste back in here. Bam. Cut and paste. Our friend. Now I do need to include some stuff. I need to switch this over to use the pick point that we have. What else do I need to do? I need to also... geometry utils needs to get added. Where? Oh, okay, that's its own H file. Really? I made an H file for one thing? Alright. Fair enough. And this code can probably be cleaned up more as well in terms of its in terms of the way it generates terrain, because right now it's doing it very manually, but oh, sorry, I see more questions in chat I haven't answered. Moherstone asks, do all of your little guys do every job, or is it like Dwarf Fortress? Anyone can do any job. Eventually, I would like to have it be a little more specific. So somebody who has a high strength will do a lot of carrying, versus somebody with a high speed will be the first person to get picked for, say, a job that's far away, or a job that requires survivability, like scouting a new position. You don't want to send somebody slow to go scout. It'll take them forever to get back, and that's not something you want. And once again, all this cleanup is allowing me to also clear and delete a bunch of code that existed before that was kind of copies of things I didn't need. Alright, so farm build tool, we have the generator build tool. Yeah, I'm going for a strategy aspect here. The point of the game is not just to pull a banished and kind of do the best you can with limited resources. I want there to be more to it than that. I want it to be more along the lines of, you have to think each move out. Do I want to send a person out to this possibly dangerous area for these resources that I might need? For example, if you have a generator that's running low on gas, do you want, how many people do you want to send out in the first place? That's a very important question. Do I want to send 4 people out? Do I want to send out my strong people so that they can bring back lots of gas if they find it? Or am I in a rush and I need to send out the quick people so that they come back sooner? And when they do come back, hopefully, they'll come back with what I need. They won't have as much, but once I know where some gas is, I can then send out the stronger guys in a straight line to find out, how much more can I bring back at once. So that's one thing, or one part of the strategy that I really would like to be able to kind of integrate into this game. Part of the premise, I should say. Let's see, generator build tool. Oh, and I need to make sure this code right here, this little bit, I don't need the whole thing anymore, which is nice. There we go. And you'll notice I'm doing a lot of copying and pasting, and it's because the code I'm using right now already exists. There's no reason to really rewrite these sections. But I do need the code in the new place, and I need it doing what it did before. We'll upgrade it later. We'll make it do all the extra cool stuff next time on the stream. For now, just the cleanup was a big enough task that it actually took longer than I like. Not the end of the world, but still, it's a bit of an annoyance. Next time, I promise guys, we'll dig into something that adds a new gameplay feature to this game, because I have to be moving forwards. I can't just sit here and kind of refactor my own game until it's perfect. I have to get something working, or that is the point, obviously. Power pull build tool. All right, last one. And let's just double check I'm getting these names correct. It is named the power pull button, indeed. Let's see here. That needs to go there, and this little bit of code here, and that can get deleted. There we go. Nearly done. Nearly done. Yeah, and as for the sadistic points out, yeah, it's also who do you send? Like, you don't want to send out somebody who is ill-equipped for a task. And that's kind of part of the thought process, is you have to think about a lot of these decisions as you make them. So you'll notice I'm taking these previously abstract functions and I'm moving them into a space where they are no longer abstract. I'm moving them just to be boring old standard functions with empty definitions. And that is because some of these tools won't do things when you stop clicking or when you're in the middle of clicking. And so it's fine for us to have these empty definitions. And in order to make sure that you can't instantiate one of these game tools on its own, I've moved the game tool constructor into the protected area so that not just anything can access this data. And I'm going to actually set this, let's see, private, we'll leave it protected for now. So this, okay, this works, fantastic. So let's add the rest of the tools back in and do the rest of the cleanup and then call it. And I'll take questions kind of throughout, because this is kind of the more mind-numbing part of this process, where I just kind of do a whole bunch of copy and paste and write code that is kind of a given at this point. We just need to get it written and out of the way. So Mo Hearthstone asks, so are you going with a more RTS kind of gameplay? So the RTS gameplay is going to be less in the style of something like, I should say it's going to be less like StarCraft and more like SimCity or Banished, in that the real-time strategy aspect is going to be built around the idea that you're not trying to make as many decisions as you can, like you are in StarCraft. You are trying to make the best decisions that you can. You know, if somebody plays this game and decides to pause it every few minutes because they're making hard decisions, or if they begin to make decisions that take more than a few minutes, or more than even a few seconds to decide, I will consider that a success on my part. So in terms of like how much, to use once again StarCraft's terms, how much micro-management and how much macro-management there will be, I want this game to be almost entirely macro-management. I want a little bit of micromanagement here and there, but you can never tell a person, go here and do this action. You will at most be able to say, I need you to cut wood right now. And the villager will be smart enough to say, aha, there are trees over that way, and that is the closest group of trees to me, so I will go cut those down. I never want a player to have to tell somebody where to go or specifically what to do when they get to a location. Granted, I have the control in here that you could, so the idea that you can create a mission and have somebody fill out that mission and complete it is on the list, but I never want you to have to explicitly click somebody to select them and tell them where to move. You will create the mission and say, I need you to move here and then report back what you see, or I need you to go to this area and scout it for me and then come back and tell me what you found, because you are not going to have line of sight or fog of war in this game in the same way as you will most RTSs. I want this game to also have a lack of information. So if somebody leaves on a mission that you sent them out on and they don't come back, you now are faced with a difficult question. Do you wait longer, hope they come back, that they just encountered something that they, overcame but took them time? Or do you send out a rescue party? Or do you just send out a giant group in the first place and hope that, whatever they run into is not going to be able to slaughter all, 20 or 13 people you sent on that task? Hopefully that kind of explains the full extent of what I'm trying to go for here. There's a lot to it, but at the same time, once the game is rolling, I hope that it will be very self-explanatory in terms of what should be getting done, and also what should be kind of completed. So the one thing I do have to add in is that before, I kind of knew when a tool was selected. Just by having everything in one place, that is the beauty of having a lot of data in one spot. It's very easy to tell when something is set or unset. because I've spread it out, I now have to do a little bit of hunting to find the information I need. Which means looking through the tool array. Oop. There we go. And we need to just check and make sure that if any tools are selected, that we know about it. So, let's just do this. If input handler... Code refactoring is kind of nice in that way. It does let you kind of see what's happening already, and then check if that's the way you want it to work, and also gives you a deeper understanding of it sometimes. Okay, so if it is selected, tool selected is true, and we just break out of this for loop immediately. Yeah, that is what I want. That is exactly what I need. If a tool is selected, let's see here. Yeah, if a tool isn't selected, no, I don't like that. I like to have my positives first. So if a tool is selected, we need a very specific collision exclusion mask. Looks good. Oh gosh, and there's a whole bunch of code here I can delete that I haven't even done yet. So remember, more stuff. I need to do all this cleanup. So that's about a page of code. 160, let's see, 40, excuse me, the oven's going off, because dinner is ready. So that's about, I don't know, that's a good 40 lines of code right there that I just get to straight up delete. It's a great cleanup. So chat is asking, how will you handle what the player can see? Will the player have vision only over the village? Pretty much. So anyone within a certain distance to the center of the village, you will only have vision on those people. The other way to gain vision on people is to do one of the following things. You can have somebody with a radio spend perfectly good battery power from their radio to call in what they see, and so that will spend battery power and allow you to temporarily see what this person sees. Another way to do it is if you want to see what somebody else can see, and you don't want to have everybody carrying radios around, is you can run a spool of wire and a camera, set up like an old school kind of CCTV camera, and run power to it, and that will allow you to see remote areas without having to have somebody there who is either running a radio and eating up battery power, or it will also let you see areas that are close by to your village, but not too terribly close. In that way, things can mess with your electronics and kind of break your vision sometimes. Lots of ideas. These all sit inside the game design document, which is far too ugly for me to want to show any of you yet. That's why you guys actually have access to the Trello, the task control system that I'm using right now. You guys can see what I have in that, but I don't want to show off the game design document yet just because it's such an ugly thing. When I do get that cleaned up, I'll include that link in the summary description below the stream. But in the meantime, I'm happy with you guys not being able to see what a disorganized mess my game design doc looks to be. Alright, so we have all our tools. Let's just do a quick check, make sure they all work, and then we can commit our code and kind of call it a night. So we've already tested this, but I'm going to test it a little more. This button indeed does work. Now, when you click, I want to deselect these. I can kind of fix that later. That's not a big problem. Creating farms also works. Good. We've got our... Yep, there's our generators. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. I'm creating more than one thing at a time. That's not good. But I can... That's not difficult either to fix. And there's our power pole setup. You can actually... I actually kind of like it this way. You can make easier strings of power lines. I might keep this, at least for this tool. Very nice. There we go. And, just to double check, I can still click on people? No. Okay. Oh, I know what's going wrong here. That is another tool I will have to create. But that is a large tool. So I think for now, I'm going to call this at least mostly complete.
Dinner's not ready.
No?
No, you didn't cook this. You were going to do the other part.
Oh, crap. Okay. Well, guys, either way, feature mostly complete. It's as complete as it's going to get for the moment. I'm going to do a little bit more work kind of off stream probably later just to finish 100% this. Because as is, it's 90% of the way there. It just needs a little touch up. And that, I don't want to bore you guys with any of that. Plus, I have food to eat, and I'd rather not be stuffing my face in front of stream. I try not to do too much of that. Also, why are these people walking so slowly? You poor people, did I not tell you you could walk faster than that? Anyway, so if you guys have any last questions before I sign off, please let them fly. If you like what I'm doing, you want to see more of me programming or, you know, just see more of game development in general, please feel free, hit the follow button beneath. It looks like I'm up to about 125 people right now, which is fantastic. I love to have you guys along as I work on this. Your questions are great, and also it gives me a lot of motivation to know that people are watching me work. If only because if I start to slack off, you'll know. And on top of that, it's great to teach more people how to program. Programming is something I think a lot of people, if not everyone, should know how to do, even at a very basic level. If only because it lets you know a little bit better how computers work in general. Kind of makes for a more computer literate society. And I like that idea. I pretty much do say that every single time. Yep. Consistency is key here. So, and this is what I'm hoping will turn into my regular Wednesday evening or night stream. I'm also going to be running the stream at least Saturdays and maybe Sunday afternoons, although we'll see how that turns out. I'm kind of waiting for my schedule to be a little less crazy. Right now, the kind of the holiday leftovers are still keeping me on my toes as it is. So, alright. And I'm just going to toss into chat once again, a music link. This is what we've been listening to tonight. If you really like it, send that YouTube guy your comments, I should say. The fact that he's using all game music for his programming stuff is awesome, in my opinion. So yeah. Thanks again for joining me, guys. I'm not seeing any questions. I'm just gonna bring up my commit log here very quickly. Add in my new files, make sure everything looks good. Look at all that deleted code. All that orange is stuff that no longer exists. So pretty. I love it. Let's see here. We ripped out, that looks like about 10 lines there. Let's see. There's another, let's call that another 10. And then from 60, there's another 150. So let's see, we're up to about 175 lines of deleted code. About 220-ish lines of deleted code. I like it. Much better. Much cleaner and nicer. This is what I should have been doing all along. But was too lazy to do it. Alright. So just to let my partner who is working on this know what I've been up to, what hijinks I have been doing. So we move the custom interface logic into separate game tools. And then we also, did we do really anything else? Not really. So this is just a nice one-line commit. There'll be more in the next one. Hope you guys had fun. Hope you learned something. If you did neither, let me know how I can improve. I would definitely love to make this either educational or entertainment. Increase my entertainment value so that more people come by, say hi, stick around. So as I said, if you have any comments, questions, please toss them in the chat. I'll stick around in the chat a little bit after as I stuff my face with food. But yeah, thanks for sticking around and watching me code and do my thing. I'll say it once more. Hit the follow button if you are new, haven't seen this before, and like to see more. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys later. Hopefully I'll see you on my next stream. Take care. Night.